Okay, now I'm gonna pull that little plastic piece off of the blue part. I don't know if it's gonna be able to focus on this because I cannot see what I'm doing. Unfortunately, the display is broken on the rear display doesn't want to work. But I'll just basically hold the blue part with one set of pliers, the eyelet, and then pull it apart. And this is the part I'm interested in right here. So the plastic piece can be used for something else. And then here is the eyelet, and the wire is going to go right there. Now you don't need a fancy crimping tool like I have. And they are not that expensive to begin with. You can order those everywhere, but I happen to have it, so I'm going to use it. And it really doesn't matter which way you bend it, but I think I prefer to bend it this way, away from the where the eyelet is going to go in, like that. I mean this piece here is going to go in here, because I want to go right over to this piece where it's gonna then be screwed in with these kind of pins. So I'll just position it, and I don't know if it's gonna let me. I cannot take this piece off, so I don't know if it's gonna actually work right or not, because these pliers are not easy to use, especially in a confined area. But I'm going to bend this farther out. I hope you can see it. As I said, I'm working blind, so don't critique my video. My videos are not that high of a quality anyway. I don't care about the quality of the video as long as you can figure out how to do it. And this thing is flipping on me. So what I'll do is, it's an old trick. What I'll do is I'll just put this eyelet into my crimping tool, and I have to use the largest part, and I'm going to pre-crimp it a little bit like that, and I'm holding the pliers like that, and I'm going to take the piece, and it's not going to reach. It is too far out this way. So how am I going to do this? I guess I'm going to just have to use the regular pliers. Okay, alright. Now that's just what happens. So we'll just get back to the video, hopefully. I'm going to crimp this a little bit. Squeeze just half of the eyelet, just a little bit. So I create some kind of like a little C. And then I'm going to put this part in like that, and then I'm going to just squeeze, make sure that I have a little leeway, because it has to be long enough to reach this part up here. So I'm going to make sure that it's long enough, and it seems to me that's going to be long enough. So now I have it halfway crimped, and I just wish this was a little longer lead, but I don't have a longer lead, so I'll just have to work with what we've got. And I'm going to go a little farther this way, and squeeze a little more this way. And it's pretty secure, but I think I'm going to flatten this area a little bit more. I want that to stay forever, if possible. And now this piece has to be bent like that, so you can put this pin into this socket here. Because these pins, I'm going to show you what they look like. They have a little washer. Don't forget that little locking washer, because there's a lot of vibrations inside this gun. And they have a flat screwdriver tip, and that's how you screw it in and out. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and put the locking washer first, and then the eyelet, and then try to manage it over here. There we go. And my fat fingers are in the picture, but I guess you'll understand once you work with it. You'll see that it's not that difficult, really. Okay, so when you tighten it, just try to spread. So don't tighten it too much, just a little bit, because once you put it back together, you can actually tighten it a little bit more. And I'm going to put back the second one, because I took off 2 pins. Again, the locking washer first, and then into the eyelet, and then screw it by hand if you can at first, and then use the flat screwdriver. And as I said, just tighten it a little bit. You don't have to over tighten it, because it's going to spread that spread this pin, and once it spread this pin, you will have a trouble with putting it back in the socket. So just tighten it enough that it's you know, basically finger tight with the screwdriver. Okay, now how do you put the rest of it back together? So this piece here plugs into these 3 pins over here, and so pay attention. There's 2 of them are connected to a same pin, and the third one is where the power basically comes through all 3 pins, but only 2 pins are connected. The third pin, it doesn't look like it's connected at all. So I assume they put the third pin in there for stability. So this third pin, I'm going to use the connected pin and the other pin that is unconnected on the same side where these 2 sockets are. In my case, that means I'm going to be pointing the unwanted one, let's call it that way, but it actually won't let you put it in the wrong way, which is a good thing. And then you just push it together, and now you can actually tighten up these basically pins or bolts or whatever you would call them to the final tightness. So now it's assembled. Then this plastic piece goes over, so the filament goes through, and then here is the assembly. By the way, there is this metal piece which is used over here to shield. It's basically a heatsink for this electronic part. I'm not going to get into it what it's called, but it's basically you want to push it back in. Make sure you don't take that bolt out. When you take these 2 screws out, don't take this one completely out. Just loosen it so it comes off. So I took these 2 out first, and then as soon as this was loose, I pulled it out, so I don't have to look for this piece or forget it. So that would not be a good thing. Now there are 3 bolts. 3 screws, and so just position this so the 3 screws are going to be in the right place, which is like this. Okay. Alrighty. Now, come to think of it afterwards, after I took this apart, I realized that maybe you don't even have to take this assembly out altogether. Maybe it can just be unplugged from the front, and I'm going to try that in the next video, because both of these stopped working last night when I was using these, and I don't know what's wrong with the other one, but I'm going to go ahead and assemble this now. One of these little electric screwdrivers, it's called Hammerhead. They had them on sale at Home Depot, and they had them on sale for $15, guys. Unbelievable price. Okay, so it'd be nice to have a magnetized screwdriver, so we'll go ahead and magnetize it. That's another nice little tool to have, is one of these things that you can magnetize and demagnetize. And let's get the screw back out. Let's see if it's going to hold it, and it's holding it, so that's a good news. There we go. And I'm sorry I cannot show you what it does, but it's pretty simple. You just manage to put these screws in the back, and they only fit one way. Okay.
Showing pictures that match.
And then my phone, Google phone, is talking and so on and so forth, which I'm not going to pay any attention to. All right, let's put in a little bit of the second screw. I just want to start it because I still have to manage to put in the third one, which is the one that holds that electronic part, which it's called a heatsink, by the way, this copper part. I'm sorry, it's not copper, it's brass. And I wish I have a better camera view here, but as I said, it is not very difficult to do. So I screwed up that one in a little bit. It's not all the way tight yet. I always just kind of stir them a little bit. Once I start getting a little resistance, I start putting in the other screws. So that way they are all working themselves in correctly. And it's plastic, so don't over tighten it because you can strip these much easier than you think. Now, even though this is electric, I could use the electric part, but I don't want to strip the screw. And there we go. So now it's assembled this far. Okay, that's why I was saying is that when you're working with this, that electric cord here is not long enough. Now, this piece has to work itself back in, but you have to line up the screws. Okay, and there is one right here. You can see there's a difference in plastic, and the screw goes right here. So what I do is I usually just put it in a little bit, like that, and then if it's loose like this, and then I know that the longer screws are the ones look like a wooden screw, are the ones that's going to go in there. And let's see if it's actually catching, and if it's not, then you have to loosen up and find out the spot for it. Oh, there goes my screwdriver. Let's see if there is a way to see inside. Okay. So what I did is I loosened this up and lighten it up, line up the holes.
Call from Reassembly.
Okay, let's try this one more time.
Call from Reassembly.
There we go. Get my screwdriver off the floor. And let's see if it's gonna. Oh yeah, there we go. So start the first one.
I don't understand.
And then go ahead and put in the remaining screws. I usually try to take the opposite on the opposite side. Love this screwdriver. Okay. Next one. And the last one. Alrighty. And last screw. All right. Now you would think that I should go ahead and test it right now, but I don't think that's a good idea because this heating element, as you can see, this part here has an insulator. I don't know what they use in these days, but it's this tubular material. I don't know what they make it out of, but it's some places the white powder starts coming off of it, so it is definitely some kind of a heat resistant material. And make sure that you insert that all the way And then there's this little spacer. I don't want to call it asbestos, but it looks like the old-fashioned asbestos. But I hope that China is not doing asbestos because it's illegal all over the world. And I line this up, and then there are 4 screws. They are machine screws. They are not wood screws like the other ones were. And again, be careful. Just do one at a time, a little bit. Don't put them all. Don't start tightening them up yet. Just start them, and then put the other 2 in, the remaining 2 in this case. And since I'm holding it like this, I can just hold it like that. And they also have a washer underneath. Some of them don't. This particular one has a head that is shape of a it looks like that there's a washer underneath, but there isn't a washer. It would have been nice if it did had a washer on it. Okay, so now it's assembled, and let's test it. Take the electrical cord, got a bunch of cords underneath here that we can practice with. First turn the fan on, and then dial up this dial in the back, and it should start getting hot, and it's already getting hot. So I'm going to dial down the dial right here, and then once the air is cold, that's the only time you should flip this off. Now this is a 2-position switch that when you put it the first position, it stops supplying the power to the element, the heating element, but it is kind of hard to work the switch. So I just basically turn off the heat with putting it onto the 0 here on a dial, and then now it's lukewarm. And don't shut it off too early, because that's what burns up these elements. So I actually let it run until it's literally cold. The air is cold. So in this case it's lukewarm. And here's the middle position, and then here's the final off position. But this one is now working, okay? And that's it. You can repeat this on your own. Have a good day.